This show is brought to you by Boricua Beer, coming to your local retailer in September. This show has been brought to you by Taino Light Beer, coming to your favorite retailer in September in Central Florida.
Are you proud to be Hispanic?
Hispanics in Florida now have the first Hispanic car license plate in the United States.
Be a proud Hispanic.
Put the Hispanic plate on your car.
I want to be a doctor.
I want to be a scientist.
I want to be an engineer.
I want to be a police officer.
I want to be a professional dancer.
By getting the Hispanic plate for your car,
you will support scholarships and community programs.
Call now or visit HispanicAchievers.org.
I am for the child who's had 7 addresses in a single year because she's in foster care, because her father abused her, and her mother couldn't believe her. She is the child I am for. I am a volunteer child advocate. I am you.
Florida residents call toll-free 866-341-1425.
Hi, I'm Danny Ramos, and welcome to this week's edition of Hispanic Speak Out TV, brought to you every week. We also bring to you 2 other shows in addition to Hispanic Speak Out. You know, Hispanic Speak Out is a very outspoken political show, an issue show, mostly about minorities in the Central Florida area, but we also cover topics of national interest. We also do EDU TV, which Greg Perkins is the host of EDU TV. EDU TV is a show specifically for educators and administrators of educational systems. It talks about everything that has to do with education, funding, politics, just the whole teaching, the methods of teaching, et cetera, et cetera. And Greg is the host of that. We also have Latina Role Models, which will, Latina Role Models is a great show. It features Latin women who have achieved success in our community and are contributors to our society in a big way. So that's a great show for you to look at. And we have our co-host here, Jose Miranda. This is Greg Perkins, and this is Bill Garrington, who wrote a book, and he's becoming more or less a regular. He's our resident ultra conservative in the show. Jose is our ultra liberal in the show, and Greg is a liberal Democrat, and I'm a registered independent, although Jose thinks I'm a Republican. Okay. I like to vote on issues, okay? A lot of stuff that we can talk about today. One more thing, I just wanted to make an announcement that Boricua Beer, it's a new beer coming into the market, and that beer is called Boricua Beer. It has the name Boricua for the Puerto Rican community. We also have a brand coming out called Taino, which will be available in September in your retail outlets. On September 13th, there'll be the kickoff party for Boricua Beer in Altamont Springs and Cranes Roost, which will be a concert festival introducing Boricua Beer into the community. Everybody's welcome to that event. Okay, guys, let's talk about, what do you want to talk about, Greg? We'll give it to you. Pick a subject.
Pick a subject. I don't know. We're Donald Trump. We're really happy about that. As a,
well, you know,
as a Democrat, man, we are happy. Go Trump.
And he's bringing a lot of Republicans to the table because he's number 2 right now.
Yeah, he sure is.
So, you know, in the polls, Trump has gained over the other 13 or 14 candidates who have brand names.
Yeah,
13 or 14 candidates.
There's at least 13, aren't there 20?
There's at least 50 in there. So
14 currently.
Yeah.
14 currently. But for the debate, they're going to pick the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
So Donald Trump will light a fire there because right now it looks like he's going to be in that debate.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question that he's going to be in the debate.
That's right.
So Donald Trump doesn't give a hoot about Macy's taking his ties out. He said it's just a peanut, you know, that he can throw away. And Macy's made a big deal. Do you think that companies are making the right decision, not about Donald Trump? Donald Trump is one person, but companies like Macy's are now making political decisions. Do you think that they should be making political decisions and participating and influencing the politics of the communities in which their stores are serving?
They are not making political decisions. They're making business decisions, because I guarantee you that if they kept supporting Trump, there's a strong Mexican, Hispanic
Okay.
constituency. They say, look, we'll just boycott you. We won't buy your products. So no company wants to be.
Okay, and what about conservatives who are not going to go to Macy's now?
Well, I don't know.
Okay.
You probably got more. I don't know. I don't know if you have more.
Hey, you know,
Hispanics.
well,
Whatever.
let's look at, when you say Mexicans, everybody makes the same mistake about Hispanics. They make the same mistake. I watch CNN, Hispanics, they're not going to get the Hispanic vote. And I watch Fox News, Hispanics, they're not going to get the Hispanic vote.
What should it be?
Hispanics don't agree on politics.
Right.
They do not agree on politics. What's happening is you have a large amount of people making a big noise about the Mexican border. Cubans don't care about the Mexican border.
That's true.
Okay? Puerto Ricans don't care about, Puerto Ricans are citizens of the United States. They don't care about the Mexican border. Okay, little sensitivity, common language and all of that. But Puerto Ricans have a totally, totally different agenda than Mexican
Well, they voted
immigrants.
as a bloc last time because the Republicans only got 27% of the Hispanic vote.
That's a
whatever
lot.
that is. So they did pretty much vote as a bloc.
Well, you're saying that, but you have to break that down and say, okay, how many of that vote came from southwestern states versus southeastern and northeastern states? Because you're just you're doing the same thing that CNN does. Oh, 27% Hispanics voted Republican. Hey, how many of that was Puerto Rican?
Right.
Which have different issues. How many of that, and you have a lot of conservative, Puerto Ricans are very family oriented.
I agree.
Okay, they're workers, they're hard workers, they're citizens. They don't go for this, a lot of this freebie stuff. They're hardworking people. And I'm not saying that Mexicans aren't, but it's a different political issue.
We call you Donald Trump Jr.?
Yeah. May I address the question?
I only have one Donald Trump tie. I want you to know that.
I believe when
And this was it.
Oh, wow.
It's a doctor's tie.
there you go. You look better.
It's a doctor's tie.
Danny, I'd like to address your question that you gave. I believe big business getting involved when politicians, in this case, give their opinions or step in it, if they will, and start dictating those politicians that have businesses like Donald Trump is a slippery slope. Because now you're kind of suppressing.
Is that like the Koch brothers, by the way?
Yeah, kind of like the Koch brothers. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the Clinton Foundation people.
But I don't see the Koch brothers going on the air and saying XYZ rapper is no longer going to be in our stores. Okay.
No, they pay behind the scenes. They pay other people to do it.
But when a corporation like Macy's is undermining some comments on the political arena because they can, and they remove this person's livelihood.
Those were harsh comments, though. If you own that business, would you want to be a part of that?
If I own what business?
If you own Macy's,
yeah,
and Donald Trump made those type comments, do you want to have your brand associated with him?
Well, I don't have a problem with that because
Macy's has many products.
Because they're still having the rappers. 25.5 cents? I'm just kidding. 50 cent or other people.
They're sending a message. Macy's is sending a message to all of their suppliers of all of their products saying, if you don't agree with us politically, you are out.
Right.
That's a stretch.
It really is.
Like Walmart taking the Confederate flag out of the stores. They can do it. It's just a slippery slope. Like going back, do you remember the owner of the LA Clippers said something offensive a year and a half ago and his girlfriend on the iPhone?
Offensive? Well, let's call it racist. It was racist what he said.
Well, let me give you a better example. Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A closes down on Sundays. The owner is a conservative Christian.
Right.
They had the head go on head-to-head with the
liberals, the gay
community.
Yep.
Okay, the gay community picketed them. They held their ground.
Yes.
In the end, their sales increased.
Correct.
Okay. And then the gays backed off.
Right.
And now you don't hear about it anymore.
Right.
Now Chick-fil-A it was just ranked the best fast food quality.
Right.
For quality,
right?
And they're closed on Sundays because of their religious beliefs, and nobody's bothering them.
Okay, so you make 2 points. It's okay for a group of individuals to collectively, peacefully boycott something. I have no problem with them trying to boycott Chick-fil-A. There's another issue when you get a corporation that's got to hear the board of directors like Macy's, and they make a decision based on a political comment, regardless if you like it or not, and they're removing or taking away the contract of the Miss Universe, and they're making a political stance, that's wrong.
What you're looking at
Did you
is
guys
they.
forget that this guy just made a comment that the reason that Jeb Bush, for example, is backing the Mexican things because his wife is Mexican.
And no, he called people
Do you
rapists.
think that's a righteous?
That's
thing?
stupid.
And that's the point.
That's not the point. But you can. You don't have to.
Stupid things.
You do not have to agree with what he's saying.
Right.
But you have to defend his right to say
The
it.
First Amendment gives us that.
Or else when is it gonna
You
stop?
have to defend their right to no longer carry his brand.
And that's their choice. I just think it's a slippery slope.
It is a slippery choice.
You guys love the slippery slope stuff. Conservative do that. That's your favorite phrase. Slippery slope. Oh, it's a slippery slope.
Okay, well, you know.
Well, it's
the
a dangerous slope, okay?
The Democrats do the same thing. You know, if you are saying to somebody, if you are saying to me, you're going to intimidate me in the language that I use,
whether it be
I now
offensive
have
or not,
to be very careful
Right.
how I address something that's politically sensitive.
That's wrong.
Like the Puerto Rican thing we just did last week, and that we're doing again, that there's racism in America based upon the fact that Puerto Ricans are not given the right to vote and they're U.S. citizens.
And who's perpetuating this racism?
Wait a second. Well, the government of the United States.
Oh, President Obama.
No,
All
wait a
roads
second.
lead back to Obama.
No,
Obama.
we're changing the subject. We can go there in a couple of minutes. But the reality is, Trump can say anything he wants.
He shouldn't be
Now-
allowed to say everything he wants because he's in a public arena that's going to offend a lot of people.
Wow.
And businesses have a right to say.
A political candidate shouldn't be able to say anything he wants.
No, it should be truthful.
Not
It should
anything, Danny.
Truth,
You can't-
that's what he just
you can't-
said.
You can't stand up in the arena and
This is
say,
what-
"Oh, fire an auditorium."
We're not talking about firing the auditorium. We're talking about a
pretty much.
political candidate. A political candidate can say anything he wants.
Yeah, but it wasn't true what he said. He
He's
said the
protected-
people are rapists.
What's not true?
Rapists and murderers.
No, he didn't say all. He said Mexico is not
Listen,
sending their
wait a
very
second,
best.
Wait a second.
Yes.
We're going down the wrong direction.
Oh, slippery
It doesn't
slope?
matter what he said.
Wow.
Slippery
He
slope?
has the right to say it.
Oh, okay.
And they
It's
have
a
the
simple-
right to take him out. As
I
a
agree.
prophet.
They have the right to take him out.
I
if
just
they want to.
disagree with that
We're
right.
just saying the concept was, does a corporation that might be publicly owned by Republicans, Democrats, independents, and all kinds of people, do the board of directors have the right to make a decision
Yes.
that has a political implication with their stockholders?
That's why they're the board of directors.
Okay.
They collectively make
Well, that
decisions.
means that, I don't agree with Trump in the way he said it.
Yes, you do.
I do not agree with immigration policy in the
You're a
United States.
conehead Republican.
Excuse me. I don't agree
You're
with.
still a conehead Republican.
We're having a serious conversation,
I'm
okay? So
serious.
let's try
You're
to be
a conehead.
serious. Okay.
You're a
okay.
conehead. Stop
So
that.
I agree with the fact that Trump has the right to say whatever he wants as a candidate. Don't vote for him.
I agree. I agree.
Don't vote for him.
I agree.
Okay?
I agree.
It's as simple as that. I will defend his right to say it.
Yes.
I might not vote for him because of what he said, but I will defend his right to say it.
Okay.
Okay, it's as simple as that.
We should have knuckleheads like
As
that.
right now, Macy's is now going to have a lot of conservatives saying, you know what? We don't agree with immigration policy, so we don't agree with Macy's immigration policy.
Conservatives don't shop at Macy's. They shop at Walmart.
No, conservatives shop at Macy's, let me tell you. They shop at Macy's. So now, very quietly, people are going to start looking at their credit card and saying, you know what, I'm not going to use this this week. I'm not going to use this at Christmas time.
Right.
So Macy's will get an economic backlash that's not going to be on the news.
Right.
But they will get that economic backlash.
No, I don't think so.
Yes, they will. Absolutely. You know why?
Republicans
Because I will
support
defend the right for Trump to say it,
No.
and I will not buy at Macy's.
Okay.
How do you like that?
Well, I
You
just
don't
still
buy at Macy's anyway.
exactly.
I do.
I play
I have a
conservative shop
Macy's.
at Macy's.
I don't.
I have
Exactly.
a I have a Macy's.
No, I don't
credit card.
shop.
I have a Macy's credit card. But
So you're going to boycott Macy's?
no, I'm not boycotting.
Well, you just
I'm
said
just
you are.
saying that I am objecting to them forcing their political philosophy on me.
They didn't force anybody.
They're telling me
No, they said
that
they are not doing business with them.
okay.
Okay.
And what they're doing is they're exercising a shut up policy. You're not allowed to say this.
No.
I am freedom of
They're
speech.
They don't want a knucklehead to say represent them.
You know
and
what's
have
going
a
to happen? You know what's
product.
going to happen? Possibly, you're going to get a coalition of conservatives that are probably going to elect this person. And wouldn't that be ironic? As he's the president of the United States.
Go back to Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Look what happened with Chick-fil-A. Perfect example.
Donald Trump's
Okay,
loving
they
this.
got boycotted based
Eating it
upon
up.
a political philosophy. Okay? Which may or may not be valid. I'm not discussing the political philosophy. And what happened?
Right.
The other side came in and increased their sales and supported them publicly.
Right.
And you're going to get that kind of reaction from Macy's. You know, New York is a liberal town, but there's a lot of conservatives in New York that have a lot of influence.
Yes.
Listen, we got to take a break. We'll be right back.
My name is Raquel Garzón, and I'm a Latina role model. My advice to you is to always be yourself, be authentic, and to do always what you believe is the right thing.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Cooper and I'm a Latina role model. If you want to do what I did in my life, you want a success for your life, stay focused. Don't stop believing in yourself. Write down your goals and I will see you at the top.
Are you proud to be Hispanic?
Hispanics in Florida now have the first Hispanic car license plate in the United States.
Be a proud Hispanic.
Put the Hispanic plate on your car.
I want to be a doctor.
I want to be a scientist.
I want to be an engineer.
I want to be a police officer.
I want to be a professional dancer.
By getting the Hispanic plate for your car,
You will support scholarships and community programs.
Call now or visit HispanicAchievers.org.
Welcome back. I'm Jose Miranda from Hispanic Speak Out TV, brought to you each week on Bright House Channel 49. We have 3 shows also on Channel 49 that one precedes us, which is the education show. Of course, we bring in all the educators to speak about the vibrant things that are changing in education. And behind us, we have Latina role models, which is great. You get to meet those Latinas who make changes and who can also show you a path how to be successful. Tonight we're going to talk about the island of Puerto Rico, but you know, I couldn't do it necessarily by myself, so I brought 3 beautiful young ladies to explain this to me. Immediately is Yacina Collazo, Marie Masson, okay, and Elsa Camacho. They're all attorneys. They also belong to the Puerto Rican Bar Association here in the state of Florida. Welcome, ladies. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
I met these young ladies at a gala to talk about the dynamics of Puerto Rico and stuff, and I found them so interesting and so enlightening. I felt like I was home, and it was so cool. So the island of Puerto Rico is getting beat up a little bit now. I'll give you some quick statistics. I saw that 45% of the island is on food stamps. The average age now is up to 53. That means where are the young people? So my questions, I'll throw it out here as a discussion, is why is Puerto Rico taking such a turn to the worse?
It's the economic situation mostly, and first and foremost. Historically, Puerto Rico has been, the government has been the biggest employer in the island, which represents a big problem because operationally, if you're managing a country, even if it's a small country like Puerto Rico, you'll have to sell municipal bonds, for example. And that part of the financing of the government and the functioning of the country is now collapsing because those bonds have to be paid on a first priority. And as you know, Puerto Rico is not a state, it's just a commonwealth. And the people of Puerto Rico, while they are U.S. citizens, they do not have a vote in Congress. They cannot vote for passing any laws. Their representative, which is the commissioner, does not have a vote in Congress. So even though there is currently a bill in front of one of the House committees to amend the bankruptcy code so that Puerto Rico can declare bankruptcy like all of the U.S. states can do, you know, Puerto Rico doesn't have a vote even if the bill passes the House, and you know, if it's on its way to become a law, it's going to be up to the other states to decide the fate of Puerto Rico. And you know, it's unfair, but a decision came down from the First District Court of Appeal in the First District in Boston, and it pretty much sided with the bondholders and the big corporations and the hedge funds, and said Puerto Rico.
Isn't that crazy that somebody in Boston, a non-Latino, is going to make a decision for about 3 million people?
Right. Yeah. It's our judicial system, the federal judicial system, and you know that's how things work.
It seems nutty. It really does. So, what do we do? You have a country, 3 million people. We have a decision to make, but we also have a voting issue, where we can't vote for the president of the United States. People on the island but if you're here, you can vote. So doesn't that sound like a catch-22? You know, how do you explain that?
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the obvious issues that we deal with, being American citizens but not being able to vote for our president. Even though we have to send people to the military. We fight in all the wars and everything. And even when we're discussing the issue with the bond issue, the Court of Appeals did affirm the lower court's decision, saying that I think it's called the Recovery Act wasn't available to Puerto Rico so that they can file for bankruptcy. But in their decision, even though they affirmed the lower court's decision, they said that taking Puerto Rico out of that protection of being able to ask the federal government to allow them to restructure this debt was unconstitutional. So they ruled that we couldn't do it, but then they stated in the opinion that it was unconstitutional. So those are things that Puerto Rico has been dealing with for many, many years. And I think that now that we're talking about money, now that we're talking about 2016 being an election year, more and more people, I think, are going to be educated, whether they want to or not, on the different status and the different positions that Puerto Rico stands.
Okay. Also, the situation between becoming an island and a state seems to be almost a non-issue, because the island can't possibly, at least in my opinion, cannot survive on its own merits. Okay, so do you think, despite the fact that I think a majority of Puerto Ricans want to become a state, all right? I think the last non-election results was like 55% wanted to do statehood. Do you think they should get in the state, or do you think they should try to go on their own?
I think that they should become a state. I mean, obviously, in discussing the issue that they have economically, I think with the U.S. assistance and the other avenues, such as the bankruptcy that's been discussed, that's not afforded to Puerto Rico in its status as it is, and being a state, obviously, that would resolve all those issues. Now, I know something that's brought up in conversation, I'm just putting this out there, is, oh, well, they don't pay the taxes in Puerto Rico, though. So it's kind of, you don't get this, but you get this. Granted, we don't get a lot more than being an American citizen, on the mainland gets. But, there are some things that Puerto Rico has that, we don't have here, so it's a trade-off. Should they become a state? Yes. I think that would definitely assist with the economic crisis currently.
Okay. I was amazed, we were, just for edification for everybody out there, the island grows coffee. And I'm a coffee drinker, so it's like, yay. I said, we grow coffee? That's cool. But the island doesn't buy its own coffee. Okay, they import coffee. And then I found out they don't grow plátanos, the bananas. What's with that?
Well, just as a follow-up to what Elsa was saying, there's a significant portion of the Puerto Rican population that thinks they should become a state, but let's not ignore the other portion that voted for Puerto Rico to become an independent country and to remain a commonwealth. And there's arguments for each one of those three main positions. There's also independent candidates that think something in between, or a combination of things where Puerto Rico is independent and more self-sufficient in the economic sense.
But we can't.
There's other proposals, but we can't do
island.
it because there's laws like the Jones Act.
Okay.
From last century, and the cabotage laws
explain the Jones Act.
That exclusively limits Puerto Rico to conduct commerce with the U.S. And so Puerto Rico is not at liberty to trade with the Dominican Republic or Cuba or South America. Every ship that comes into the island has to be a U.S. ship, and the commerce is very limited. So how do you develop a country to become independent if those laws are still the law of the land? And I think just recently, people were just throwing out the idea that the cabotage laws and the Jones Act need to be repealed so that Puerto Rico can come out of the economic situation, even if they remain a commonwealth. And even if they, decide to do something else with their political status.
Because I think that what it goes to say is that, and one of the big problems is that Puerto Rico has all of the requirements that the federal government imposes on all the states. We still have to meet the labor and fair wages standard. We still have to meet the federally minimum wage standard, but we don't get all of the pluses that other states do. And even when you look at other states, Puerto Rico itself is a poor country. It's in the bottom scale of when it comes to the economy.
Okay.
So where other states here in the United States are given some benefits,
I heard they're comparing it to Mississippi, for example.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, so
Well below the
I'm not
average
knocking
poverty line.
Mississippi. It's
Right.
just they're comparing it to Mississippi.
Right. So we have the requirements and the mandates
Right.
of a richer state compared to those of the United States, but we have the benefits of a poorer state.
Okay.
So just when you look at those two things, it's really hard to kind of even out. And now that we need the United States help, and we're not asking for a handout, we're not asking for a bailout, we're asking for something that all of the other states have. Give Puerto Rico the ability, the privilege to be able to tell their municipalities that they can apply for Chapter 9.
Well, I know speaking to Senator Soto, he said he was not in favor of a bailout.
Right.
Okay, so I would think the consensus in Congress will be pretty much the same way.
Correct.
And we're not looking for a bailout.
Right.
However, I briefly spoke to you about the possibility of this conspiracy. You know, what if Puerto Rico was a microcosm of what is going to occur here in the United States with bonds and underemployment and things crashing? What if, just bear with me, what if the government said, this is an island of 3 million as opposed to 300 million, okay? And saying, let's see what happens when an island who is still part of the mainland goes belly up and we do nothing. Do you think that's a possibility? Of course, it's a conspiracy kind of thing, but.
Well, it might be interesting to see. I mean, there is no precedence for the payback of an amount this big. We're talking about between 72 to 75 billion dollars.
Right.
And there is no precedence for a government just saying, well, you know, we can't pay it, so we're not going to.
Right.
So, I mean, I think that a lot of other states, a lot of other areas and countries are going to be looking at this situation to see how it plays
It's
out.
totally scary.
Yeah.
It's totally scary.
It is, but again, it goes to the same comparison we were making before, where states that could potentially get into the same situation where Puerto Rico is today still do have alternatives under the federal laws to file for bankruptcy, to do other things with their
If Puerto Rico is
management.
allowed to do that.
Exactly.
Correct. Puerto
Okay,
Rico
so-
does not, under the current political status, have any of those alternatives available that could potentially save its economy.
So it wouldn't be
Well,
a fair
now if Puerto
comparison.
Rico is allowed to do that, all of the other states are already able to do that.
Right, but Puerto Rico is
as
different.
a Commonwealth is
Right.
excluded from
Right.
that protection.
Okay.
Right. So for testing purposes, I mean, there's no true comparison. I mean, there's no need to, you know, see what happens to Puerto Rico in these circumstances if the same circumstances, you know, can't happen to the states
Right.
because they do have other
Correct.
avenues.
Of course, it's not a fair balance.
It's not a fair, exactly.
Okay. We got a couple minutes left. Tell me about the moot court and the things that you ladies are involved with. Elsa?
The moot court competition is probably going to be dealing with the same issues that the First Circuit just resolved in July with regard to Puerto Rico's right to declare bankruptcy, et cetera. And so we're very excited to have it happen.
Yes. And that competition includes the 3 regions. I know you previously discussed it.
Yes.
There'll be a competition in New York as well as Chicago, and the main competition taking place here. And you know, that'll give us some good feedback in terms of, you know, how to represent this issue, you know,
In court?
in court.
Okay. Ladies, we run out of time, but thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and hanging out with me.
Yeah.
You know, and thank you for joining us. This has been Hispanic Speak Out. Remember, you've got to get involved. You got to be part of everything.
You have to vote.
You have to vote to make changes, okay? And we'll see you again next week, same time, same channel.
This show is brought to you by Boricua Beer, coming to your local retailer in September. This show has been brought to you by Taino Light Beer, coming to your favorite retailer in September in Central Florida.